Welcome to the Wedco podcast, where wedding wisdom meets street smarts.
We're dishing out all the tips, tricks, and wedding goss to take your wedding to the next level.
Time to ditch the formalities and get this party started.
Yeah!
All right, welcome to the Wedco podcast. I'm Togger.
And I'm Joel.
And we are here back at Brayside on the Gold Coast today. And we got none other than Annie in the studio with us.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How you going?
Great.
Good?
How are you both?
Yeah, very
We're
good.
doing really good.
Feels a little bit convoluted to be having the how you going conversation after we've just been chatting for the last 10 minutes, doesn't it?
We've been talking about mouth
no,
lube.
but tell me, how are you? Seriously.
Yeah. How are you good? How are you different from 4 minutes ago?
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming in to join us here.
You're welcome.
I was super
Thanks
excited.
for having me.
As soon as we were kind of, pitching this idea to each other, we're talking about who we can have on board, and you were definitely, very top of my list to have on here. So
That's exciting.
thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for legally marrying me and Kashia.
That was cute, wasn't it?
That was
Little
very
park
nice.
ceremony.
Yep. So
many moons ago.
it was, yes, like
That does
17
feel
kids ago.
like
Yeah.
another lifetime
It does.
ago. I still remember what I wore though.
Fully. Oh, I don't.
Almost
sorry.
wore that dress today, actually.
Hey,
Ooh,
there
that
you
would have
go.
been cool.
just for old time's sake, reminiscing on the good old days.
Yeah, exactly.
Too good.
Awesome. Well, we just kind of, obviously you've got your hands in so many pots at the moment. You're
sure.
doing everything. You are, I don't know if you like the word hustle. Hustle, I feel like is overused at the moment. But I don't know if there's another way to describe you. You are kind of doing everything and doing everything really well, which is awesome.
So weird. I never feel like I'm a hustler.
Yeah, okay.
I think that more than anything, I just have an overwhelming amount of creative ideas that are constantly being flooded to my brain, and I have no choice but to act on them, and often to my own detriment because, I'll be like, that's a really good idea. I'm going to do that. And then I'll start it and then I'm in it. So I have to keep doing it. And then I've suddenly got 10 other balls in the air that I'm juggling and I'm like, why did I do this to myself?
Yeah.
But I'm also really, really happy about every single creative project that I have going on. So I don't want to let any of them go. They're all so important to me. I'm so heavily invested in all of them that despite feeling overwhelmed at times with the amount of, I don't want to say pressure, but in this job, because we are working with people to help them achieve the absolute best day of their lives, and there's no margin for error, we have to do it well every single time, that comes with a certain amount of pressure. And I think over time, with experience, that pressure sort of reduces because we know and trust in our own ability to be able to deliver really well on the day always. But I think that for me personally, now that I've got all of the other girls working under the brand and I've got the venue and I've got all of the things going at once, it's really important for me to make sure that I stay on top of things and have a schedule and am much more disciplined, whereas I have previously been more inclined to be a bit more blasé and I'll do a bit here and I'll do a bit there. And that's what I mean when I say I've never felt like a hustler, because I take such a lackadaisical approach to business.
Yeah, okay.
But now I've really had to kind of buckle down a bit more on processes, making sure that my client journey isn't affected in any way by all of the other things that I have going on.
Yeah. And how, like the business aspect of it, how does that go? Do you have people working underneath you in the business now, or is it still you're kind of doing everything? Or
I'm still pretty much doing everything.
Yeah, okay.
So it's interesting that, I hate to bring this up so early in the interview, but the pandemic changed everything for me.
For
and in leading into the pandemic, I had just taken on a PA.
Yeah.
And she was coming everywhere with me, to weddings, to meetings. She was responding to emails, to Instagram stories, everything. She was really starting to run the administrational side of my business for me. And I spent a lot of time training her and helping her work in a way that emulated the way that I worked, so that people who were interacting with her got the same experience.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, I had to let her go at the start of the pandemic, and since then I've just not had the time, and really I've still been clawing back financially from the pandemic. So I've had to just do it all myself.
Yeah, okay.
I'm at the point now where I am about to start training somebody to
That's exciting.
fulfill that role again, because you know, there really is. I always say, there are 22 perfectly usable hours in every day. They're like, I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing. But no, there's got to be an end point, and I'm there now. So I do have somebody that's just about to join the team who will be my right-hand gal.
Yep.
She's young and fun and keen and pumped, and
That's great.
yeah. So hopefully that from here, things will just start to change a little bit for me, and I can really start getting back into doing the stuff that I love.
Exactly.
Which is like the weddings.
Yeah.
You know, being there, being at the background stuff, all the admin, all the bookkeeping, all that social media. I actually hate that part of the job.
100%.
What I love, what I love is being there with people on the day. Like, that's the fun part.
Exactly. That's why you got into this. Yeah, for sure.
That's why we're here. So I think that when you've got too many other things going on, it can be hard to find time to just really appreciate and enjoy that part of the job and feel grateful for it, because as soon as that job ends, you go, right, on to the next, and I've got to do this, and I've got to email this person, and I've got to respond to that inquiry, and I've got to upload this to social media, and I've got to... So you don't even get to pause and just go, that was amazing.
Yeah, and that's exactly how you would have been when you first started this journey, and you just had like a wedding here and there. Every single wedding would have, you just like 100%, this is everything. And it's as you build your business, and it's learning those different skills. I'm horrible at it as far as training other people up. I'm like, I get like, 2 weeks in, I'm like, I'll just do it myself. Whereas like Joel's awesome at doing that and like taking the time, and you see the payoff, and logically how good that's going to be for you and your business and delivering to clients, but then like putting that into action is a hard thing.
Yeah, and I think it also requires a fair amount of discipline and strategy. And if you're not a person who's naturally inclined to create effective and streamlined business systems, or you don't have a really strategic client journey in place, or your administrational processes are a bit ad hoc, which was the case with me. Training somebody else to do what you do is really hard because there's no structure in the process.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's one thing that I've had to learn to do, I especially noticed it when I started bringing on other girls to work under my brand, and I was teaching them what I did in terms of the client journey and how it all rolled out. And I sort of realised that I had it all up here, but putting it on paper was an entirely different ball game. And I had to spend a lot of time really nutting that out, so that each time I bring somebody in, I can go, here's the client journey. Here's the process. Here's the structure. Here's the email template for this. Here's the contract for that. Here's what we do at this point in time. Here's the scheduling tool that you'll need for setting up meetings. And so once, like, it does take a long time to set that stuff up, right? And it doesn't fall naturally into my skill set.
Exactly.
So it's something I've really had to dig deep to
almost works
get
against
in
the
place.
creative. Like, you can tell how creative you are. It's like these two budding forces, which are complete opposite ends as well. So I do have that now, and it's made life a whole lot easier, not just for them, but for me too. I didn't realise how much it would ultimately benefit me, because like I mentioned before, having so many balls in the air, unless you've got really strict processes in place, sometimes those balls can fall.
100%.
And that is...
And even just like taking away from your mental load, just like they always say, putting pen to paper, getting something out of your brain onto paper, and you're like, cool, now I just don't really need to think about it. Like, I can think about it when I need to, but it's not just up in here. I think us as creatives, I think we all start out very much on that level of like, I want to be a photographer, I want to be a celebrant. And you're like, do your thing as amazing as you can, and then everyone else just kind of like takes the back seat.
For sure.
So
and
I just wanted to quickly touch.
Sorry,
just so everyone knows a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah,
so
that could help.
Backtrack.
Tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, cool. So I have been doing weddings for a decade, And
Amazing.
So since you were 8, is that right?
come on now. keep going.
Yeah. Seriously,
So
keep going.
here's the thing, right? When I started out doing weddings, I never intended for it to be a career for me. I was a school teacher at the time and I was on maternity leave. I just had my second child and I was at a friend's wedding. I was actually, where was it? The QT. Yep. Yeah, so he was a newborn. And I remember rocking up to this wedding and being pretty excited about it because these two friends of mine are particularly interesting people, really cool backstory. They were having their wedding at the QT, which was back then, like we're talking, when was it? Yeah, so what are we in? 2023. You do the math.
Yeah, like 2010, something like that.
Yeah, so around that time, so around 2011, 2012, I feel like back then weddings were still pretty, I don't want to say vanilla or beige, but they were vanilla.
Off-white.
Stucco,
but if the shoe
mother of
fits.
pearl. So it felt good to be going to a wedding that I knew was going to have a bit more of a different vibe, party vibe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when I rocked up and I saw the Celebrant, I was like, oh, wow, I've never seen a Celebrant that looks young and cool and fun.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I was really interested immediately to see what the ceremony was going to be like. And knowing them and knowing they had a cool story, I was thinking, oh, this could be something cool.
Yeah.
And then the Celebrant started talking and I was just immediately disappointed.
Oh, bugger.
I was like, oh, come on, you're just saying all the same stuff that we've already heard. Everyone's wedding ceremony, like it's a real cut and paste.
Yeah.
And there was no warmth or authenticity in the delivery. It was quite monotone.
Yep.
And I just sat there becoming increasingly frustrated to the point where I grabbed my then husband's arm and I'm like, I'm going to become a celebrant. He's like, what? Yeah, I'm breastfeeding Finn with this arm, yanking on his shirt with the other.
Just all the things happening.
And he's like, yeah, okay, cool, good. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. I'm going to become a celebrant.
I'm going to take this microphone from this chick.
It was all I could do to stop myself from getting out of my seat and taking the microphone off for sure. Anyway, the next day I enrolled to do my Cert 4.
Wow, next day.
The next day.
Good. That's exciting.
Yeah. And I won't say that was when the idea arrived for me because it's sort of something that I had in the back of my head for a while before that. I'd mentioned it to my mom a few times in passing. Actually, I suggested that she do it. She's a drama teacher and, I was like, but each time I suggested, I was like, oh, maybe I could. But because I just didn't see it as a career that, young people did or that there was, I'd never seen it as a role that could be cool and fun. But then I realised that was what actually needed to change about the role, that was what probably what...
you found a gap in the market.
Yeah. And honestly, I didn't have a business plan. I just thought, I'm going to do this. I'm at the point in time where a bunch of my friends are about to start getting engaged and getting married, and at the very least, maybe I can do their weddings and it will be a fun, creative thing to do.
More personal for them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was on maternity leave as well, so I wanted to keep my brain busy. And so I did the Cert 4, smashed it out pretty quickly, and then just instantly had a friend on Facebook say, we're getting married, we're looking for a celebrant. And I hadn't even finished. Oh, no, I'd finished my course, but I was waiting for my... for the registration from the Governor Attorney General to be approved. Okay. There's a 3-month wait period and you've got to, before you've even, so you've got to do the course, which is like 900 hours, and then you've got to apply for registration, which is $600. Nothing is guaranteed at this point. So you've invested a whole heap of time and money and you're kind of just sitting there on a hope and a prayer that it's all going to go through. I didn't have any reason to believe that it wouldn't, but I said to my friend, I'm not registered yet, but I can do your ceremony. Maybe we can get another registered celebrant to come in and do the legal aspect and I wouldn't mind having them there anyway for my first, first little go at this just as a backup. And she was like, yeah, let's do it.
That's it.
I found this really cool this dude was on the verge of retirement. He barely took on any weddings. And I emailed him first and I was like, will you do this? Will you help me out? And he's like, nah, it's not my thing. I really don't want to. And I just thought, I'm just going to call him because he lived just up the road from where the ceremony was happening.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So I just picked up the phone and I was like, hey, I emailed you. You said no, but I'm just going to pester you a little bit more about this until you say yes. So anyway, we chatted and he was lovely and he came and helped me out. And
Awesome.
I think what I realized during that experience and through the delivery of that ceremony was how hard it was to break out of everything that I had learned about ceremony from my course and everything that I had learned about ceremony from my experience of witnessing weddings.
Yeah, for sure.
So unlearning all the stuff that they drum into you about how a ceremony should look and feel and how we're supposed to stand in front of everyone and talk about how great love is and what marriage is. Like defining love and marriage to a group of adults who have fully fledged brains of their own.
Yeah, exactly.
And their own understanding of those two concepts. Like it's preachy, right? And boring. But I was like, but what else would I talk about? How do I find the right way to talk about these two people and their experience of love and why they want to get married without sounding cliched, and also maintaining that really strong sense of meaning and authenticity so that it feels emotional and it feels real, but it's not cringy. People aren't going, far out, this again, yeah, when's the bar open kind of thing. Yada, 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 pronounce you can just go. So it took a really long time for me to sort of hone my skills as a writer. And I've always liked writing and I've always had what I thought was a pretty good ability to articulate thoughts and feelings. But this kind of writing is totally different. Writing for ceremony is a new skill that I had to learn. And in order to learn it, I had to forget everything that I'd already learned about it.
Yeah, definitely.
There came a point, I think I was about... and from that wedding, despite me thinking that I did a very kind of average job and it was middle of the road, I actually got 3 other weddings from that wedding.
And I'm doing something right. Yes.
So I knew that there was enough there to build from. And the fact that I got 3 other weddings meant that I had to get better. And so I thought, all right, well, I'm going to start an Instagram page and I'm going to start, talking about things and getting ideas and putting myself out there a little bit. And then I think I got about 10 ceremonies in and I delivered this wedding for a couple. It was at a park in Brisbane. And after I finished it, I walked away for the very first time thinking, oh, am I allowed to swear? I fucking nailed that.
Yeah.
I walked away going, that was it.
Crushed it.
What happened there? That was what I was looking for.
Yep.
I knew that when I was writing that ceremony, I took a lot more risks in my writing. Mm-hmm. I felt way more nervous beforehand than I did for the others. Okay. I'd really taken the time to get to know the couple, and this is key, I really liked the couple.
Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm.
So our values aligned. We really understood each other in terms of music and popular culture. Yep. We're from a similar era. And when I arrived at their wedding, I found that their guests had a really good vibe about them too, and they were interactive. And just everything that I said in ceremony landed really well. Yeah. The nuances and things like that I'd embedded into the storytelling were picked up. They're, even very, very underhanded or subtle bits of humour were picked up. They were, and when I looked out at people, they were all looking at me like smiling and nodding, and it just felt like that they were giving me the energy I needed to keep going. And then I just trusted myself more and more along the way, and really knuckled down on the delivery. And so when I walked away from that, I went, right, well, that was it. They are my ideal couple, and from now on, I'm only speaking to them.
They're my people.
Wow.
So everything changed about my marketing at that point, and everything changed about what I wanted from the job as well. Because I was like, I only want that experience now. Like, it's as much about me wanting to be there and having that connection and enjoying the job as it is about them sharing that experience with me and having a really good time.
Yeah.
So, I from then on, I use my little Instagram page as a way of talking to them. And when I say them, I mean they became my ideal couple. So everything that I wrote, I pretended that I was talking to them.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because I wanted to attract more people like them.
Yep.
So I no longer tried to sound professional and flowery, and I dropped all of the I didn't worry so much about swearing and
you got rid of the broad spectrum of trying to appeal to everyone.
I wasn't trying to be some polished version of myself. I was just being myself.
Being you.
Then.
There's enough of those people out there. There's enough celebrants like that.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and everything changed. And despite not having a business plan, my business just snowballed. I can't even tell you. You know, the first year without doing any advertising at all, I did 30 weddings.
Yeah. So good.
And then the year after that, I did 50, and suddenly I'm going, I can't go back to teaching, and I didn't want to go back to teaching anyway.
Yeah. Shout out to all the teachers.
Honestly, I went in, there were a few days, I did a few days of relief, and I'm like,
I was going to ask, would you ever go back to teaching? There's the answer.
Done. Yeah, I'm so done. I only did teaching because I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
So, I think that from that point in time, it wasn't just a thing that I was doing to sort of scratch a creative itch anymore. I started to really see it as a career and something that I wanted to be the best at.
Yep. Yeah. Instead of being like that passion project, you're like, no, this can be life.
Yeah.
This can be it.
And at that point, honestly, I didn't even have pricing in place, and I was like, holy shit, people are emailing me asking me for how much things cost, and I feel really bad because I haven't really set up any pricing. And so the next thing that I did was engage Bearded Friend to create a really good website.
Yep. Yeah, okay.
I hadn't seen any good websites out there. Actually, that's not true. I had. And it was Josh Withers' website. And that was the first time I sort of came across him was through Instagram. I'm not sure how. I think he might have actually found me.
Yep. Yep. Pretty similar timelines where you both started. Yep.
Yeah, he was probably a year or two ahead of me.
Okay.
And as soon as I saw him and I saw his page, I was like, oh, you're doing what I'm doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're sort of where I want to be in terms of levels of professionalism and things like that. He had a really good website in place.
Yeah.
His marketing was very, very, very clever.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like same thing, very professional, but not that polished look that you're not going for as well.
He wasn't kowtowing to what he thought people wanted to hear.
Yep.
He was almost deliberately going for shock value.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, sounds like him for sure.
Yeah, he was like an antagonizer of the white wedding market.
Yep.
And I liked that.
Yeah, and people love him for it as well.
Yep.
Yep, definitely.
So Josh and I became friends.
Yep.
And it was him that put me on to Roby from Bearded Friend, who helped me create a website. And it was Josh that also put me on to 17 Hats, which is the CRM that I use, which ultimately has dictated how my client journey is rolled out or my email template. So I've got a lot to thank Josh for. He really mentored me at the beginning of my journey. I think that when we look back on our careers, there's always a key person
definitely.
That showed you, held your hand for a little little period of time and gave you the direction that you needed or the inspiration that you needed even. And it might be as simple as having a really good chat with them or them just helping you affirm what you already know about yourself to be true. And that is that you belong here and you have a place and you can do it. Yeah. So for me, I was very, very grateful to have Josh there with me at the start of my journey and having a great website in place and then following that up with a great business system like 17 Hats changed everything about the way I did business and allowed me to be more effective, manage things more effectively and be better as a celebrant because I had better systems behind me.
So the 17 Hats, is that your CRM?
Yeah.
And did you implement that? How soon into business did you implement that?
Really soon, thankfully.
Interesting.
Awesome.
Really,
That's
really
great.
soon. And for someone who, like I mentioned before, I don't have very good organizational skills in terms of I've got lots of creative ideas, but getting them down into an organized and systemed sort of approach, that's not my forte.
Yeah.
It doesn't fall naturally into my skill set. 17 Hats was actually set up by a photographer in the US. It's for photographers.
Yep.
But there was nothing else around. Studio Ninja wasn't even around then.
Yeah.
So it was kind of groundbreaking. It had just come out, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Josh said, there's this new thing that's just come out. I haven't tried it yet.
Give it a whirl.
But it looks really good.
Yep.
You should give it a whirl. I reckon it'd be worth investing your time into. And he helped me set it up. And
That's amazing.
I think that because I did it so early on and I didn't have too many clients on board, it wasn't such an overwhelming task. But if you're already a couple of years in and you've got 70 clients on the books and you've got to slowly transfer all of your information for all your clients, it's a bit painstaking.
I only did it like beginning of this year for myself, and I was just like, and it was one thing that Steve always encouraged me from the get-go. He was like, you got to do this, and I was like, yeah. It's the same thing, you just put it on the back burner. It's like game changer.
It's
like
so
it
good.
proper is.
Yeah, because for me, the thing that I love so much about 17 Hats is that when I get a new client and I set them up, I schedule everything.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So from the moment that I create that client's account, I will say, this is the date that I'm going to contact them to arrange our first meeting. Mm-hmm. This is the date that I want this questionnaire to go out to them so that I can tick off their legal paperwork. Yep. This is the date that I want their personal questionnaires to go out to them individually. And I schedule it all. I don't even have to activate it.
It's so good.
I just
You get the email back, like, thank you so much for the email. And you're like, yes.
Invoicing, contracts, everything. It's all set up at the beginning, and it ensures that not just that I'm ticking all of the boxes that I need to tick, but also that the client feels really supported along the way because they're getting all these check-ins.
Yep, exactly.
They're getting all the things that they need about. There's regular check-ins throughout their client journey. So if they're on my books for a year, throughout the course of that year, every so often there'll be a check-in.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's important.
Yeah.
That's part of that. Sorry. That's part of that, like that client experience, right? It's just like showing that, like, this is why, we call ourselves professionals. This is why we are full-time in the industry, things like that. It's like, this is what you're paying for. I'm going to do a great job at your ceremony. Leave that with me and we'll come up with something personalized and tailored to you guys. But it's just like, this is like, there's so much more than just that, ceremony time. It's everything.
Yeah. And knowing they get to rock up to their wedding knowing that I'm across everything.
Yeah,
for sure.
They know because they've filled out the questionnaires, they've done the thing, they've had the final check-in with me. I've gone through everything from start to finish. They know how their ceremony is going to play out. The only thing that my clients don't know on their wedding day is what I've written about them.
Yeah, okay.
In their story.
What they've written about each other?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
With a little bit of, I do like to sort of use a bit of creative license and sometimes embellish some truths. But I always say to them at the start, like, you have to trust me.
Yeah.
This relationship that we have right now requires trust, openness and transparency.
Yeah.
So you give me all the facts and the feelings and then you trust that I'm going to package it into pretty sentences, make you sound really cool, really interesting, really funny, and also that this whole thing that's happening between the two of you is going to be really meaningful.
Yeah.
And I think that's key, right? Because people want their ceremony to feel fun and interesting and entertaining, but they don't want for any of those things to detract from the meaning and sentiment of the
Completely.
day.
Yep,
You
for
want
sure.
to walk that line between humour and sincerity. You don't want the humour to take away from the sincerity. You want there to be a really nice balance between depth and lightheartedness.
Totally.
And you want more than anything for the person representing you to feel like a true representation of you and not something that's, I guess, I want to say, because I've seen it play out, I want to say trying too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Making
Totally.
it about
It
them.
should feel natural.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the whole ceremony experience shouldn't feel like a rehearsed production, which is why I'm against rehearsals.
Yeah.
It should feel like a naturally unfolding conversation between you and your family and friends.
Yep.
It shouldn't feel like this forced structural kind of rollout where people are, stiff and
Completely.
they can't let their shoulders drop and, they're worried about what they need to say or how they need to be on. The cue of the music has to
Where
be
do I
here. And
face?
there. Like we have to teach our couples to lean into all of the things that happen on their day, even the things that go wrong, and just roll with it and and remember that over and above everything else, the most important thing for them to experience on their wedding day is the real and raw emotion that comes from getting married and celebrating their love and their love story in real time, not in a rehearsed sense. We can't rehearse human emotion. When we do, it comes off as disingenuous.
And even I find you like catering to grandma and to groomsmen, like that would be so tricky as well. And I've been at like ceremonies with you, and you see like grandma come up and say like, "Oh my, you did such a great job." Like that's so just like trying to cater to both and get everyone involved and loving it. That's like got to be tricky as well.
Yeah, that's what I meant before when I said it took me a long time to learn how to write in a way that was accessible to everybody. That meant that that everybody felt seen.
Yes.
It's really important for me that my ceremonies are inclusive and that the people who are witnessing the ceremony aren't just passive receivers of this information that I'm delivering, but they feel like participants. They feel included in the conversation, and they feel like they are celebrating it with them and not just watching it happen.
Yeah, like watching a play almost play out. You know?
Yeah. So I do kind of look, again, I think that when you ask for guest participation, you've got to be really clever about it. You don't want it to feel forced.
Yep.
You know, if you're going to get your guests involved in your ceremony, you want that involvement to feel like something that they're naturally inclined to want to participate in, and not cringing and thinking, oh, I don't want to do this. So there are lots of ways in which I've kind of developed techniques and things over the years in the warm-up, before the ceremony starts, and you're doing your housekeeping and you kind of I was talking to Erin Woodhall about this recently, actually. She's an amazing celebrant in Brisbane.
Yeah.
And we have these little testers that we do in our housekeeping and in our warm-ups, and it gives us a really good indication as to what kind of a crowd we're dealing with, how far we can take things. If there are things in the script that we've included and we're unsure about, because you got to have, like, for example, I rarely swear in my ceremonies, and I'll only ever swear if it's like a direct quote from the couple, or if it's really necessary for
storytelling.
The punchline.
Yeah.
To whatever it is that I'm delivering. So, it has to be an integral part, and it has to be really clever. But even still, even when it's integral and even when I know it's clever, I'm always nervous about it.
Of course.
How it's going to come across.
Exactly. So I'll have it there ready to go, but I'll do my testers at the start during my housekeeping, just to make sure that I'm not, surrounded by a group of conservative people who would take offence at hearing a swear word in a ceremony, no matter how clever or funny. Because you've got to be able to read the room, right? And you've got to have a backup plan in place too. So we do these things where I'll have like a little bit of a joke, and it might be just a little bit risky. The joke might have just like a bit of a risque element to it. And if that gets a good response, I'll take it to, there'll be another level, right? And then if that gets a good response and I know everybody's laughing and clapping, I'm like, okay, we're good to go for this F-bomb.
I'm going to drop it.
But so that's something that comes with experience as well, right? You can't just walk into a wedding straight out of Celebrant school and know and understand.
Yeah, for sure.
All of that.
And like been shooting for 13 years, and I would never expect that you were doing that ahead of time. You know, and like watching you do that, that's crazy to think you've got all these systems in place to try and work that out. Whereas I guess someone new to the job would just drop that F-bomb. I don't care. Boom. And it's like, it's not well received and okay.
And I think scripting in general, you have to be flexible with what you've got down on paper. And also know your script. Not just know your script, know your couple.
For sure.
Because if you know your couple and you know their story and you've taken the time to genuinely connect with them and really learn their story, the script's more of a prompting tool.
Sure. Yeah.
You don't need to stand there and read everything that you've written because you know them and you know their story. And I've had one experience where the bride has been walking down the aisle and I've gone to look at my Kindle and it's just blank. Nothing on there. Gone completely. No script. Bride's walking down the aisle. No time to do anything. And I was like, right, this is happening.
Yep.
So I just put the Kindle down on the signing table and picked up my folder because it had their full names in it. I knew like I need to be able to say their full names.
Yeah.
And everything else, I was like, you know this, you know them, you can do this. You've done this so many times before. You're just going to speak. You're just going to go and tell the story the same way that you've written it. Just, And I don't think that I could have done that at the start of my career.
no,
That's
not at
just
all.
like a huge pressure that no new celebrant would
For
be,
sure.
would
Yeah,
be able to just sort of take on. You'd stop the ceremony and go, I need to I need to download this from my computer. Can we just start the ceremony again in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Used to happen as like photographers when you start off and you've got couples there and you kind of, there isn't as much chemistry, so you kind of have to pose a little bit to get them into movement. And when you do start, you just go completely blank. And I've got two people in front of me. I got no idea what I want you to do.
Yeah.
And it's really tough. But then as you do it more and more often, and you can kind of move from this to this to this to this, and it's just, no matter what happens, you've always got a plan, and you can kind of just, like you said, just go off the cuff, and you just make it work.
And it's important to like find your own style as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I was trying to, at the beginning, I was emulating what I'd seen before, even though I didn't want to be what I'd seen. But I just didn't know who I was or where I fit. So it took me ages to sort of find my own voice, feel comfortable in that space and holding space for other people, and really step into and own my style.
Yeah,
for sure.
Feel confident about it. So going back to what you said about, how this all came about and how I started on this journey, I think one of the key things that happened for me in finding my style and feeling confident in my delivery and my writing and everything, I realized at that point that I needed to rebrand. Because the brand that I'd first created and the website that I'd built my business on
just wasn't it.
No, it wasn't it. It was soft.
Yeah.
And I needed edge.
Well, that's great.
So the brand change, rebranding, was a huge game changer for me.
Yeah.
It was like all of a sudden I felt so proud.
Exactly.
I wanted everyone to see me then.
Yeah, for sure.
At first I was like, I just want to do this job and get around and, and do a good job and not upset anyone. And then as soon as I found my branding and it felt like me and I knew what I was doing, I was like, no, I want everyone to see me now. I want to be the best at this.
Yeah. And it's something obviously you do very well, like across all your branding, across all the businesses as well. You can tell it's you. It doesn't feel fake. And it just all ties in so well together as well. Yeah. So
But isn't that essential for branding, right? What happens when you come across a business and you get an impression from their brand and then your experience of that impression doesn't match? There's no alignment. You get like this immediate sense of disappointment.
Definitely.
So
it's all the cafes popping up and they've got the same aesthetic and you're like, this is going to be awesome. Epic. And then the food's crap and you're like, they just stole the look and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. You bought this bread from Woolworths.
Exactly.
Where's my
organic sourdough?
I want a thick, crusty crust. Yeah. So I think that's so important with when you're creating a brand and you can't create a brand until you know who you are.
Completely.
For sure.
Yeah.
And there were so many decisions that I made early on subconsciously that I didn't think about. Because I didn't ever imagine that I would be in a position where I'm suddenly bringing other people in under my brand because I did grow very quickly. Yep. And I guess we're always looking for ways in which we can further monetize our brand or expand or grow. But being a celebrant meant that there's only one of me. I can only do so many weddings a week.
Yeah.
So early on, I made this decision before I even came to before I had the epiphany of bringing other people in. I was like, I'm just going to make my social media and my branding and everything about the business. Yep. I'm not going to talk about my personal life. Yep. I'm not going to. I will key all of my marketing and everything like that around delivering on the experience for the couple, as opposed to, I guess, selling me as a person.
You. Exactly.
Because I wanted to sell myself on my merits as a celebrant and a writer and a presenter, as opposed to making people like me for what I did in my personal life, which to be honest wasn't anything that great.
Yeah, it's never that exciting.
I'm far out. How do we glorify this single mum suburban lifestyle?
Yeah.
You know, I felt like it would just be self-aggrandizing in the end. So I really decided that I'm going to focus all my marketing and everything like that on what I can give my couples as a celebrant and as an MC. And so what happened as a result of that meant that I'd created a brand, like a strong brand that wasn't necessarily centered on me as a person, but it was centered around an experience and a vibe. And so then it made it possible for me to bring other people in under that and to learn those ways so that they could also deliver that same experience.
I was going to say that transition to bringing people on would have been a lot easier doing it that way rather than being like your entire social media, your entire business is like, this is what I'm eating at the cafe on the weekend kind of thing, to being like, this is now the team that you've got. And it's like, well, like we've been so used to dealing with Annie this whole time.
Yeah, we know everything about Annie.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know
anything
want these
about
other
that
people.
other person.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
sure.
Yeah, so I think there are a few reasons why I made that decision in the beginning that had nothing to do with ever expanding the brand. But the main reason that I made the decision not to include my personal life on social media was because I think, and you'll be able to relate to this, I reckon, that when you're running your own business, it's so difficult to create balance between work and play. And it's so hard to create division between, when you're at work and when you're at home.
Definitely.
Especially with the inclusion of smartphones. We're always contactable and the work never ends and it's so hard to switch off. And I felt like if I started including too much about my personal life and who I am on social media in my day-to-day life, it's going to bleed into that and it's going to become even more difficult.
Here I am at the beach and here I am at the, all of a sudden it's just all work.
I think that social media is such a great tool in business, but it's a terrible tool for us personally. It's a terrible,
I live on it. I spend way too much time on it. I'm like always mentioning, I'm like, oh, did you see this? And he's like, no, dude, I was down at the beach with the kids. I'm like, all right.
I have a love-loathe relationship with social media. I do love that, like I get probably 80% of my business through social media. So I love it. And I appreciate it. I really respect it as a vehicle.
Yeah, for sure.
That's led me to be able to create a strong brand and business. But I just don't like the way that it dictates the way people live their lives and interact with each other on a personal level.
For sure.
Definitely.
So I've had to put some pretty strict rules and boundaries in place for me personally in order to protect that. I don't want to have what have we got? You have a few thousand followers on Instagram. You might know a few hundred of them.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'm putting photos of my kids online and us at the beach and I'm like, who the hell is watching this?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
As well. So privacy and also just boundaries, personal work boundaries. And then there was just the positive off-spin to creating those rules early on meant that I was able to grow the brand as a brand, a standalone brand that didn't require me as a personality behind it because the brand speaks for itself. It's as an experience and as a vibe. So,
and how did you go bringing other people on? Are these the other celebrants? Are these people you know personally? Are they like, how do you come into contact? And then I guess you get a good vibe of who a person is to see if they are aligned with your brand. But how does that whole process go?
The first person that I brought on was an easy one because it was when we were in lockdown and her name's Anna. She lives in Byron. And Anna and I went to school together. Her mum was my calligraphy teacher. My mum was her drama teacher. We lived just a few streets away in a country town in Victoria. And she was travelling around Australia in a van and the pandemic hit and her van broke down and I saw on social media she'd just put up a story like, I'm stuck in some little town in northern New South Wales and it's so hard to get anything done and this is, she was just having a bit of a downer and I was like, I'm actually just not very far away. We live on acreage.
Cross the border.
Yeah, what it was actually, doable at that point in time. It's hard now because it's all blurred. I think I've deliberately blocked that shit out.
Yeah, those years are gone.
Yeah, and I was like, come and park your van here. You take as much time as you want to get it fixed and we can catch up and hang out and, just...
One thing led to another.
Well, so Anna is one of the greatest storytellers of all time, and she has the best story. She's one of the most interesting and engaging people I know. And I trust her wholeheartedly. Yeah. And she had all of the same. Like, she's quite similar to me in terms of like her vibe and everything as well. And she's really engaging. And it was at that point in time where I was thinking, oh my God, when all of the 100 weddings that have been cancelled from my books have to be
come back online,
I'm going to have nowhere to go. How am I going to take on new clients? How am I going to survive this financially? How do I get through? And so I just pitched it. Oh God, we were about 2 bottles of wine in one night.
Sounded like a great idea.
At the kitchen table. And I just said, you know what? You should become a celebrant. You'd be so good at this job and you don't have to do anything. You can just work under my brand. You don't have to start up, do any of the marketing. I'm going to have a bunch of inquiries coming through that I am unable to fulfill because I'm going to have to move all of my existing inquiries into next year, and I can train you and I can mentor you. And she started sitting in on all my client meetings, and she studied. She's really studious and clever. Yep. And so she just smashed out that course in 6 weeks or something crazy. Wow. Of course, she had me there assisting her and and so I would have all my online meetings. She would be silently sitting in on next to me, and taking notes and recording things. And so she would learn all my processes. And so she was there with me. So it was so easy to train her and bring her on board. And I was able to go to some of her weddings with her and create heaps of content. She was there. We could do branding shoots. Yeah, it just felt like, one of those kind of serendipitous things that unfolded. And
that's where it's going to work well as well, is when you pitch someone an idea that you might have for them, you're like, hey, this would be sick. And then it's almost then the opposite, where you're doing all the work and you're like, you've got more of the passion than they do. So it's cool to hear that. I mean, it obviously was always going to work because she's passionate about it. And so the fact that she was willing to sit in on those meetings and write notes and as passionate about doing it as you had the idea for her, Yeah.
And the proof was in the pudding, right? Every single client that I would send her way and she'd have that initial meeting with, she booked.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Not one single client dropped off. Yeah. I think we were running at one point. It was like, babe, you are 10 for 10 here. Yeah. You are nailing this. And, then I went and watched her in action and she nailed that too. That's and I was like, this is just meant to be. Yeah. And it just got better and better. Anna doesn't really do any ceremonies anymore. She's still on board as a Lady Love Celebrant, but she went and found herself the love of her life and had a baby and stuff like that. It's really annoying. It's really detrimental to my business plan. Just like happily living in Byron Bay and going to the beach all the time.
We're talking nice things about her and all of a sudden...
Zero consideration for me whatsoever.
Oh, that's so good. Obviously now, I mean, you've probably always done it, but the MC, DJ side of things, is that most of your weddings? Is that, how does that work?
Because it's when I'm MCing, it's not so intense, but if I'm doing all 3 roles on the day, ceremony and then MC and DJ, it's a very, very involved process and it takes a lot out of me because you're on. Yeah, you're the first to arrive, you're the last to leave, you're managing all of the equipment, you've got to make sure all the sound and lighting is always, because quite often I'll be working at venues that don't have in-house PA systems and stuff like that. All my mics and everything like that are being used. Yeah.
So Joel, thank her for awesome PA systems.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much.
One of his big things.
One of my biggest pet peeves is rolling into weddings and there's half the time there's not even a line out for the videographer to get vows and things like that. And I'm like, then they're the first to whinge when videographers are duct taping stuff to their microphones. So yeah, having a good quality PA system is
and a good mic too, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. As soon as I sat down here, I'm like, oh, Sennheiser.
Exactly. It's worth it. Exactly.
My mic's a Sennheiser, and my system is Bose. And then when I'm DJing, invested in. I actually just bought new decks. They're so good.
Yeah, exactly.
Like only just this week or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. I got the Denim Prime 4+. If you know, you know.
And now next year you're doing 200 weddings. Yeah.
Well, I was like, I really got to taper off on the DJing. It's taking it out of me. I'm so exhausted all the time. But let's spend $4,000 on some new decks. Just go all in. Yeah, and I've been practicing on them all week. And oh my God, I'm actually so excited. I'm doing a wedding this coming Saturday at the Valley Estate and Celebrant MC DJ. And I've got a really good feeling
and
about it.
And you're just frothing.
Yeah, well, the couple both DJs as well. So I was high pressure. And I think that might have been what like the catalyst, because I was thinking I really should update my gear. Do I just get the model up from this and kind of stay with what I know and keep using my laptop? And, so moving away from Tractor to Denon is huge because previously I was using a totally different software. All of my music, everything like that's arranged through Native Instruments, and now it's all got to be done through a different program. So it's relearning everything, and it's a big investment in time. Yeah, and already I'm so happy that I did it. I was super anxious about making the change, but I feel like that's right. Like when we're really nervous about doing something or going bigger, we do feel that. And then it's always worth it.
Big thing, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. You move up. I already know that I'm a better DJ than what I was because my equipment's so much better. Sound quality is better. Yeah. Like I can split onto 4 decks now.
Let's go.
It's got stems. I can isolate vocals, or I can isolate bass. I can set up like 4 different loops at once. It's crazy. It's amazing. It's exciting.
That's sick. That's so good. I have no idea what any of that means.
That's, if you know, you know. Otherwise, sorry for becoming like suddenly very boring.
Yeah, no, but I love it because like going back to like investing in your gear, it's like or especially myself, I'll speak for myself personally, but like we invest in like a recorder that records 32-bit float. If you don't know what that means, it's just basically there's like no floor on the audio recording. But if you've got a really, really bad microphone, if the Celebrant has like a $20 microphone from JB Hi-Fi, like that's going to be the limiter, not my recorder.
Yeah.
And so it's just like there's so much. And then it's like I almost feel I get annoyed because I'm like, you're not really investing in your couple. Like it's not even you investing in like, I bought a new camera or whatever. It's like giving your client the best experience, giving your client the best, and like from a ceremony point of view, like there's 100 guests there or however many people.
Exactly right. And so that leads into questions about how pricing is structured amongst celebrants, because there's a huge variation in the market. And I know that in your Instagram post somebody asked about budget, median and high-end pricing. So I think that the difference between paying for a celebrant who might be a bit outside of what you expected in terms of budget, because we have become increasingly more expensive over time. But that's because the quality of Celebrant has changed and increased over time, and the delivery on the service has increased and changed over time. So one of the things that you can expect from a high-end Celebrant service is really good quality equipment. You should have a really good system, great quality microphones, and a good understanding of how those systems work as well, so that you can utilize them in the right way in different spaces and things like that. Making sure that you have windsock for your microphone, just really basic stuff that a good Celebrant will invest in. And so the other thing...
On the windsock, just real quick, we were at a wedding only just on the weekend, and we rocked up, and on the microphone was a sock with a hair tie around it, and we were like, bro, no.
An actual sock.
It was an actual sock.
Was it an ankle sock or what was it?
I think it was. I didn't pull it off. It was a legit sock. And I was like, there's no joke. Like,
wow. I mean...
Here we go.
From a distance,
I'm all for the tell. Thinking on your feet, improvising when necessary. That would make me twitch a bit aesthetically.
That wasn't like how do we get rid of this wind in the moment? That was, this has already been on there. Actually, it doesn't look like it's come off it ever.
So it was a permanent fixture.
It looked like a very permanent fixture. And I was like, all right, cool, awesome.
Maybe it's obviously working for them.
We've been talking for an hour. we're going to have to wrap up pretty soon.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But it's gone so quickly. We'll definitely have to have you back on because
Sure.
I feel like you're definitely a wealth of knowledge that we haven't got to. Any kind of final tips or anything like that you would like to give, or
is there something that you want to give, like the brides and grooms of how to plan ceremonies, or what I know we've touched a little bit on it, but like what makes a good ceremony? Why?
So I reckon there are a couple of things that I would say are imperative to having a really cool, fun experience, and that is choosing vendors.
book. Exactly.
Yeah, choosing vendors that you align with and that you get along with, particularly photographer, videographer and celebrant. They're the people you'll spend the most time with on the day and in the lead up to the day. So you want to like them.
I'll cut in for 1 second. We have couples, and like you said, we'll get 70% of couples, they have a celebrant, and we're like, I get it. I understand. And then you have 30%, you're like, how did you guys book that person? Like, how?
I think that when people shop on price, they really let themselves down.
Yep.
And only retrospectively they'll realise that.
Yeah.
Because they'll go through their ceremony and the experience falls flat because they haven't chosen a celebrant who they align with and, like I mentioned before, who genuinely represents them well.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it doesn't – and people, I think, get stuck in the mindset of making sure that everything is aesthetically pleasing on the day. Mm-hmm. And then it's only when the day plays out that they realise how little the aesthetics matter.
Yep.
Because when people go to a wedding, they might walk in and go, wow, it's all so beautiful. But what they remember about the wedding is how they felt.
Yep.
You know, if there was a really meaningful ceremony that took place. So they also remember if the food was really bad and if there was enough.
Definitely. That was my wedding.
I'll
remember.
Enough to drink, good tunes, good food, great people, great entertainment, and that everybody works together well. So I think the key is choosing vendors who you align with and also vendors who work together well.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
That's why we all have our referral systems, right? Because we like working in teams where we know that the other party's going to deliver on quality, where we know that that's not going to be a photographer that's going to be lying on the ground while you're saying your vows with a fat lens,
up nostrils.
and just moving around.
We're talking about me.
General, this was my last experience with you, Steve. Thanks for remembering. So I think that when you're choosing your vendor team, don't shop on price.
Get to know them.
And recognize why price exists. And I don't think it's always true that just because somebody's expensive, they're going to be good. So research, look at reviews and things like that. But also, most importantly, talk to them. Yep. You can tell how experienced somebody is through chatting to them.
Completely.
And you can tell if you're going to enjoy spending time with them as well. So you want to make sure that you like the quality of the work that they do, as evidenced by what you've seen on social media and their website. You like who they are as a person and you enjoy talking to them, because you'll have to do a lot of that in the lead up to your wedding and on your wedding day.
Yep.
And generally you like their service approach and the way that they work with others. So if you have all of that in place and you've got a team of vendors that you like and that work well together, and then you just trust them. Yep. Because once you've got your team of vendors, if you let go of control and let your vendors do the job for you and deliver on the day for you, so that you're not hosting, you're not managing, you're going to have a great day. Totally. You're going to have a fun time. And you can just leave it to us to make sure that happens. Because when you've got really good professionals on board doing their job well, it's just inevitable that you're going to have a fun time.
It's seamless. Everyone sticks to their job. They know what they're doing. They're like, yep, I've got this. It's all good.
Yeah. So leave it to us.
Yeah.
Let go of control, have a good team, and just go into the day so that you are experiencing it in a way that's mindful, without worrying about the logistics and the management of it, because your team have got you.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest and best tip that I have for couples.
Love it.
Thank you so much. So where can people find you and book you, because they're only going to book you? I
have a great team.
The team.
They've all been specifically trained and mentored by me. So if you like my flavour and you like, obviously they all bring their own individuality to the table, but there is only one other girl in my team who offers DJing, and she's in Melbourne.
Yep.
So if you're just looking for a celebrant, obviously any one of us will do the job really, really well. But you can find us at www.celebrantlady.love.com.
Yep, perfect. And you're very, very active on the socials and everything.
Celebrant
as well.
Lady Love on socials.
Yep.
Lady Love DJ if you just want to look at music stuff. That's right. And Love Buzz. We didn't even talk about Love Buzz.
Like we need to talk about. Yes, maybe we can do a recording from there coming up or something like that, because we need to come back to the Gold Coast again. So maybe we can film from in there or something and talk more about.
Come to Love Buzz. We'll do it because we've got Love Buzz studios as well now. So like downstairs we're marrying people in the Love Buzz chapel, and then upstairs is a recording studio for musicians and artists.
Awesome.
So it's all happening there. It's pretty cool.
Wow, we have a ton to touch
Great
on.
recording space up there.
There we go.
for running an interview.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks
amazing.
so much for having me.
Thanks so much, Annie.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wedco podcast. We're dropping a fresh episode every week featuring industry professionals dishing out the wedding wisdom you need to turn those dreams into reality. Make sure you are following us on social media, you have those notifications turned on so we can help plan your wedding day. Your dream wedding day just got a whole lot easier. Thanks for listening.